Hey, Facebook world, how are you? Happy Saturday. Hope everybody is being as safe as possible and that you're well and all of your loved ones are well also. Anyway, I went live last week and I had quite a bit of requests to do that more often. So, okay, I'm going to try to do that. Maybe once a week or so, something like that. I think the easiest way for me to do that is to kind of highlight one of the topics that I've had on one of my podcasts. That makes it super easy, and I try to do things systematically so I can be sustainable. So if I'm going to commit to doing this, I don't know how long we're going to be quarantined. Looks like we could be a couple of weeks at minimum. So the easiest way for me to do that is to have these little chats where I talk about some of the things that I talk about on my podcast that are useful things that people might find useful in their own efforts, in their own projects. Hey, Ryan, hope you're being safe wherever you are tuning in from. I am in Las Vegas, Nevada, where the weather is pretty cool. It's nice out today, although I'm inside. It's odd because it's really nice out, but there's no place to go. And I'm not that domesticated either, so a lot of people know this has been a dramatic change to my lifestyle because I like to, I eat light, so it's easy for me to eat out quite a bit, like at night, and none of my spots are open, so I'm cooking of all things. Wow. Seth, hey buddy, how are you, man? How is Maryland? I guess ski season? I guess you're not skiing now. I know you normally ski. But I guess that season is coming to an end and it would be all shut down now anyway. So today, a quick idea I want to share. I talked about it on podcast. For those that tune into my podcast, I think it was episode 21 or so, something around that. I tried to look it up before I did this because I think, what can I talk about? And I talk about a really cool idea for getting a project launched and going. For a lot of people say, they have these things they want to do, but they can't get going. They can't build momentum. They can't get started. So I have something for that. That's what I'm going to share, at least an idea that worked for me. Yeah, ski season is done, man. I don't know if it was a good one or not. This has been one crazy year. Although, I guess you got the bulk of ski season in, Seth, before the world got turned sideways. Anyway, hope you and yours are fine. So getting unstuck, what I call it blasting off or taking off. So it's a really simple idea. It's a game I play with myself whenever I start a new project or a new venture or a new task or have a new goal. Anything that's going to take some type of sustainable activity on my part. It's a really simple idea. Anybody can do it. In fact, I'm hoping one of you get inspired to apply it to one of the projects you may have on deck. And you can use this lockdown, this quarantine, as a chance to kind of launch something that you want to get going. So the idea is this. The idea is to front load and exaggerate your activity right up in the beginning of whatever your project is. So the analogy I like to give, I talk about. I learned many years ago that a traditional rocket takes about 80% of all of the fuel it has just to break the Earth's gravity. 80% of all the stored energy it has in terms of fuel just to break the grip of gravity, the pull of Earth, right? But once it gets beyond the pull of Earth's gravity, it takes very little energy, very little of that stored energy to pilot it around out there in space. And I think that's a great metaphor that we can use to apply to our own projects, our personal goals, is to take that same approach, to be prepared to expend more energy than you can sustain in the beginning. And it works when you put a finite time to how long you're going to do this, right? So, for example, an example I like to give is if your plan is to have a 90-day body transformation thing and you want to work out 3 times a week for 90 days, then what I would suggest you do for the first week or two is to work out every day, twice some days. Do something that's exaggerated, that's beyond the level that you intend to sustain. That's even hard to do. But the key is to commit to doing it because it's just for a short period of time, right? You will be amazed at what you can do for a short period of time. Sometimes I talk about it as kind of like this blast off period. Sometimes I talk about it in terms of like a boot camp. You know, when we go to boot camp in the military, it's for a finite period of time. It's for 8 weeks or 16 weeks or whatever. But you can go through an extraordinarily challenging thing when you know that there's an end to it. So part of the reason why this works is because when you set this up, you know you're only going to do this extended level of activity for a short period of time. Now, you get a host of benefit from doing this. First is it challenges you to make room in your life to do this, because believe me, if you take on something and in the beginning of it you expect to exaggerate your effort or the time, you're going to have to make the time to do that. It's going to be very uncomfortable. In many cases, you're not going to think that it's possible. So many people, are going to say, well, I don't have time to work out. And I'm telling you that if you want to work out 3 times a week, then for the first week or 2 weeks, you need to work out not 3 times a week, but every day, twice some days. So in order for you to do that, you're going to have to reorder your life. You're going to have to move things around. Now, this does a couple of things. One is it forces you to take a look at your schedule, but it also forces you to evaluate what priority are you giving to doing this goal, this task, this quest, this venture. And then when you do this, it's normally eye-opening, because what happens is when during the exaggerated period, say for example, when you're working out every single day, you realize at the end of that 2-week period, when you back off to what you intend to do or what you intend to sustain, it's easy. It feels like you're going on vacation. I do this every year. Every year with my 90-day body transformation challenge, when I say I'm going to work out, whatever my goal is, 3-4 days a week. For the first 2 weeks I work out every day, sometimes twice a day. But when I hit that calendar date, when I hit the end of that blast off period, the end of that boot camp period, and I back off to what I intended to do in the first place, piece of cake. It's not even a challenge. It's not even hard. But when I didn't do that in the beginning, just making room to do what I wanted to do the 3 days a week is hard, right? I know these are like little mental games I play, and I encourage you to play, but you will be amazed at how well they work. So this is a good idea. So you can apply this to anything. If you're trying to learn a new skill, if you want to read more, if your goal is to read more books throughout the course of the year, then for the first month or the first week, read more than you intend to read on a weekly basis. Just take that first week or two and do more than you can do. What we're doing is we're doing something that naturally happens in terms of performance. It's called regression to the norm, but we're using it to our advantage. Because what most people do is actually a hurdle that most people have to overcome. Because what people do is they get all motivated and they get all excited about what they say they're going to do. And they say, hey, you know what, I'm going out there and I'm going to hit this gym every day. And they hit this gym hard, for the first week. They go out there and they hit this gym hard. And they say they're going to do this every day for the whole 90 days. And then what happens is they have this heightened level of activity, right? But it's not sustainable. So it regresses back to what is normal. There's a regression to the norm. So what I'm saying is know that this is going to happen whenever you have a heightened level of activity, but let's just do it on purpose and let's over heighten the activity so that when we regress back to what is norm, our normal line, our baseline is higher than what it would have been. It's not regressing back to what is normal, it's regressing back to what we wanted the normal to be, if that makes any sense. So you can apply this to anything. You can apply this to learning new skill sets, to physical fitness, to any habit modification, which is mostly what I talk about, right? Any habit modification is going to take some type of effort, some type of focus. And my suggestion is whatever your goal level is, in the beginning, you front load that activity to a level that's much higher than you want to sustain. And you do it for a set period of time, 1 week, 2 weeks, 10 days. You have a line, you have a calendar date that you know, I'm only doing this heightened level of activity for this amount of time. And then you back off of that on that date to what you intended to sustain anyway, and it's going to be a piece of cake. So I get into this idea in very, very detail in my podcast, Symbol Athletica, on all the podcast stuff out there. But I break this down. I break down gravity. I help you define gravity in your own life. You help you understand what is the gravity in your life that's holding you, that's keeping you stuck, how you can redefine that, overcome it, all that stuff. So if this idea is intriguing you, I'm encouraging you to go to the Symbol Athletica podcast and listen to episode, I think it's 21. You'll be able to tell by the title. The title says something like Blast Off. It's pretty obvious. So that's my little talk for today. Mostly talking to myself, right? Because I'm probably going to take on some modest hobby, during this lock-in period of time, because I guess I have some extra time. It's not really extra time, but it feels like extra time just because you can't do things you would normally do. So I'm going to probably swap out some things, and I'm going to do the exact same thing I'm encouraging you to do. Whatever my sustainable activity I want that level to be, for the first week or 2 weeks, I'm going to have a heightened level of activity, and I'm only going to keep that heightened level of activity for that boot camp or that blast off time in the beginning, and then I'm going to regress to the norm, but I'm going to regress to my desired normal level. And that's it. It's a very, very effective strategy. Hey, Susan, how are you? Hope that you are safe. Hey, Rod, how are you? Hope that everybody's safe. Darcetta, thanks for tuning in. Hope that everybody is keeping their social distance and doing things they can to stay healthy and sane, right? We're not going to all go get stir crazy from sitting around. You know what's really funny I'll talk about time and perception of time. There's a lot of people, had you talked to them 2 months ago and asked them about some things they would like to do in their life or some things they'd like to change in their life, they would have said they just don't have the time. They just don't have the time to get this done. Now, many of those same people now are locked in. They're locked in and they have 2 or 3 times the more available time to do things. And guess what? They're still not going to perceive that they have the time to do those things that they weren't doing before, because their perception of their lack of time as a resource is usually an alibi. It's usually not a reality. It's usually just an excuse. It's almost never a function of the lack of resource. It's almost always the function of the lack of priority. You don't give things enough priority, you will never find the time to do things that you need to do. It's mostly always, and I'm speaking to myself as well, whenever I don't feel like I have the time to do something, I automatically know that just means I'm not giving it enough priority, or I'm giving other things in my life more priority than I'm giving that. And sometimes that's the conversation that needs to be had with yourself, right? If you can't find the time to do something that you say you want to do, stop trying to find the time and start asking yourself, what are you giving more priority than you're giving this? Or why are you not giving this so-called thing you want to do enough priority for time for you to create the time, right? Because you have to create the time in your life to do things. You're never going to find it. You don't find time. Time is always there. You know, there's just 24 hours in a day. We don't change that ever. What we change is what we're willing to do with the time as we go through the day. And that's a function of priority. So, wow, I thought you started off on the broadcast. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Ashbury. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Just having a little conversation around. Started off talking about blasting off and breaking the gravity that holds people back. And now I'm talking about the perception of time and the function of time being that of a more of priority than it is of an actual resource that you spend, that you use. Anyway, again, if you like these kind of conversations, if you find this food for thought appetizing, then I'm going to invite you to my buffet, my podcast buffet. Talk about a lot of cool stuff on there. Jeremy James, hey buddy, my one-man band. How are you, brother? I know it's tough times for artists in Las Vegas, but you and gamblers in Las Vegas, both of your skill sets have been hammered a little bit, so I'm sure you're stressed a bit. Do some broadcasts, man. Do some concerts. I see a lot of people doing live concerts, man, and a lot of people have not seen your Loop Artist Genius yet. I think it's amazing. Might want to do that. I see Sean Eiferman's doing a week. He was on the news this week. He's doing a weekly show every day at noon. He goes on and he does a show, and people donate, and that proceeds go to an artist, one of his artist friends. Good idea. Sean's making things happen. That's awesome. Well, anyway, guys, that's it. I'm gonna probably do a little, home workout. I'm actually cooking now, if you can believe that. For people that know me really, really well, they're like, oh my gosh, you can actually cook? Yeah, secret's out. I can actually cook. I just don't like doing it. Hey, Bonnie, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Hey, Valley. Kim White, welcome back. Welcome back. So I'm going to do these from time to time. They're always unscripted and kind of like loosely connected, as this is. But what I had a lot of requests to do these more often, but I didn't want to raise my hand and say yes until I thought it was sustainable, and then I thought of the system that I could use to make it sustainable, which would be I can just look at one of the subjects of one of my either favorite or most popular podcasts and just kind of do a high level intro recap of that concept. And I am on episode 91 on those podcasts. That blows me away. That's just a passion project, by the way. But it's got a life of its own. It's in, 11, 12 different countries now. The tribe, as I call it, of listeners is growing. It's pretty cool stuff, and it's this type of stuff, but kind of really focused and more in a faster pace, and the subjects bounce all around. So I invite you to maybe you can listen to a couple of those while you're on lockdown. Put some headphones on, and you never know. I might give you some food for thought. My idea with the podcast and even these are just to give you a slight distinction, a slight change in perspective on something you already know. That changes everything, right? You look at something just slightly different, and suddenly the shadows goes away and the light cuts on, and you realize, oh my gosh, this is a doable thing. That's the goal here. And you'll be amazed at how close you might be to that slight little adjustment. Lenny, hey brother. Daphne, how are you? Welcome to I'm just rambling now, but welcome. Thanks for visiting. I live here alone in Las Vegas, and it's interesting. Hey, Roseanne. So I would say that 70% of my normal day has not been altered, because the most of my day is spent on the phone or online or on email. But the evenings and the nights have been dramatically altered, and the gym has been altered. So now I work out like in the room or outside. I've done a lot of walking. This has been my year of walking for my for my workout habits. I've done more walking this year than I've done in any of the 17, 18 years I've been doing my body transformation things, because walking is my body fat burner secret. It's a secret weapon. It's a great body fat burner if you can walk long enough. You got to walk a long walk, though, to really get the benefit. I mean, the fat burning benefit. And it's boring. It's super boring, but it's super effective. And I've done more of that this year than any other year ever. So that's it, my friends. Hopefully you guys are being safe. I think I'm going to start doing these on Tuesdays because I used to do a weekly video before my Krav Maga class in the parking lot because I'm systematic, right? I try to put things together in such a way that I tie things I want to be systematic with other things that are already systematic, right? So I used to do a Tuesday broadcast called Tune Up Tuesday. So I may start doing these once a week little broadcasts like this. I think I'm gonna do them on Tuesdays, and I think I'm gonna call it Tune Up Tuesdays. Hey Heidi, you're right, Kimberly. It is a great way to walking is almost probably more meditative to me than it is an aerobic, because that's when I can turn the volume of that self-talk up on high. There are no distractions, and because I go on long walks, it's an hour or more heart to heart, right? And I focus on not letting my thoughts drift. This is just kind of my walking technique, and I focus on not letting my thoughts just drift all over the place. Actually, I kind of have a theme when I start walking, and I know my walk's going to take at least an hour. When on my long walks, on my really long walks, 2 hours. When I'm really out there to get some, and I know that I'm going to think on 1 or 2 or 3 things only as a concept or an idea. It could be a project I'm working on. It could be and I just focus and thinking about those things. And you'll be amazed that when you make yourself focus on things like that, it forces you into the details. So you get below the surface really fast. So instead of just talking about the high level things about your idea, you always talk about and share. And when you have to think about that for an hour, you go way into the details of things. And quite often at the end of your walk, you've made tremendous progress in your understanding of that idea, your clarity. That's the word I was looking for. Your clarity of that idea. So walking is very, very meditative. And so I treat it as kind of 2 of those things, walking and thinking and self-talking, right? But I control the conversation as much as I can. Sometimes, life is life, and sometimes you just get away, things get away from you. But I usually put that music on, and I get lost into the thought of the walk, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So guys, I think I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to do these live broadcasts on Tuesdays, and I'm going to call them Tune Up Tuesdays. And where I'm going to get my subject matter, it's probably just from my podcast subjects. They won't be the same. The podcasts are way more detailed than this. These are way more of me just kind of rambling, like visiting, like we're just visiting, sitting down. I was either thinking about doing a Tune-Up Tuesday or doing like a little kind of happy hour type of thing with an adult beverage and having the same type of conversation. I could do either one. I have plenty of time, right? I'm here. So, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of people are walking. That's great. Heidi, yeah. A lot of people are out walking, and I think that's a great habit to have. It's hard for me because I think it's so boring. I just do it. A lot of the things a lot of people think I like working out because I'm so consistent with it, because I am very consistent with it. But if you could hook a machine up to me to measure how much I liked it or wanted to do it before I did it and compared it to everybody else, you'd probably be amazed how much I don't feel like doing it, how much I don't even want to do it or don't even like doing it. But that has nothing to do with me doing it. Those are 2 separate things. I don't have to like it for me to have to do it. It's called discipline. And I'm only disciplined because I want what it creates. I want the benefit of it. And you have to pay the price to get it. I mean, it's no different, right? So I just suck it up and go do it. So, all right, guys. Well, by the way, if you do tune in any of my podcasts and you find it to be helpful or you apply it in your life to a specific project you're working on, I always love to hear the results and the feedback. I kind of know what generally the results are going to be favorable. That's why I share the stuff I share. But I never know specifically. I always like to hear the actual stories because a lot of times those stories get woven into my stories because I talk about them. People tell me things, and you never know. You might be the subject of a future podcast or a future broadcast. All right, guys. I'm actually going to go cook some. I got some chickpea pasta. I don't know how this is going to come out because no real pasta is in the store, right? But they had this pasta made out of chickpeas, right? And I'm not a big pasta guy because I'm normally doing the keto thing, and I keep my carbs very, very low. But today is a carb day and an experimental cooking day. Hey Tim, long time, brother. And I'm gonna cook some. I'm gonna invent a dish. I think I'm gonna cook up I got some ground turkey and these chickpea pasta thing going. I got some sauce I'm gonna doctor up, and hopefully it'll come out okay. The key to making a dish taste good is to wait until you're very hungry to eat it. I am a master of the obvious, and I cracked me up. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. You guys be safe, be well, keep your space, but stay connected. Don't use this time of being disconnected physically to be disconnected from others. More than ever, you know what? Here's a challenge for you. If you tuned into the very beginning of this, and I talked about how you want to overdo things in the beginning, and why don't you take a blast off period or a boot camp period like we talked about, for those of you that want to increase the connection in your life, do that. See, that's what I mean by you can apply this to anything. You can actually, for 1 week, you can overconnect. You can reach, okay. And this is what I mean by me rambling. Here's another thing I do habitually. I do it for business and I do it for social, but it served me greatly in terms of the quality of my relationships and the size of my network and the quality and responsivity of my network over the years. Sometimes when I don't have anything to do, I pull up my phone and I go through my contacts and I just start scrolling through my contacts. And when I come across the names of people I haven't talked to in a very long time, I just send them a text or I hit dial. And I don't have an agenda when I call them other than saying, hey, and I tell them exactly that. Hey, I was looking through my contacts. I came across your name. Haven't talked to you in a long time. Just thought I'd reach out and say hi. You do that to a lot of people, you'll be amazed at what comes out of that. I started doing that in business, and quite often what happens is people will say, hey, I haven't talked to you. What are you up to? And you tell them what they're up to and what they're up to. And then the next thing you know, there's some connection there. There's some reason that they know a person or you know a person that can help them. But I make a conscious, consistent effort on the systematic connection with other people. I'm gonna do a podcast on that. Thank you for the idea. See how things work? See how organic and giving the universe is, right? You just take action and you start moving, and movement creates movement, and things happen, and then you get ideas, right? Now I have an idea for a podcast on systematic connection. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a podcast on systematic connection. Thank you. Thank you for the idea. Bridget, hey, how are you? All right, guys. People keep tuning in, which makes me not want to sign off, but I'm at the end. I'm done. I'm done. It's almost sunset here. The sun comes in my window at the end of the day, which is kind of cool because I love that vitamin D. I'm a sun worshiper, sun lover, man. I love that sun. And I can't wait for summer. It's still a little bit chilly here in Las Vegas, but I like it when it's 100 plus. That's me. I like it hot. I like it hot. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. See you on, unless I change my mind or forget, because I might forget, but unless I don't forget, I'm gonna do my live broadcast on Tuesdays, and if I do these often enough, it'll take some type of shape or form. And if you have an idea, hey Ruby, if you have an idea of how I can make it better, serve you, or more interesting, let me know. I'm making it up on the fly. But my Tune Up Tuesdays, that's what my broadcasts are gonna start to be. These random videos, I think I'm gonna be on Tuesdays. They'll be live, they're unscripted. I'm gonna probably pick a subject from one of my podcasts. That way I can have a pretty deep supply of stuff to talk about and be semi-coherent, right? And hopefully useful. But I think I'm gonna call it Tune Up Tuesdays, and that's what I think I'm gonna do. All right, guys. Hope you guys are being safe. Armando, you are the last person that I'm gonna say hello to. You guys take care.
Sometimes finding a way out